Today we are on to welcome Joseph Leonard to the show today. I'm very excited to have him on. He talks about some very interesting topics, and today we're going to cover some things we may not have thought about for us. So we're going to walk away with things that we have not necessarily implemented in our own lives. And he talks about things like patriotism, AI, just being able to write books as well. I feel like a lot of things that we can kind of improve our lives with, right? And the more that we can kind of implement in our own lives and kind of see how we relate to different stories, we're going to expand on that knowledge and improve our own lives as well. So, very excited to have him on the show today. So, how are you doing today, Joseph?
Doing good. I have to use my middle initial, Joseph M. Leonard, and it looks French. It's not Lenard, it's Leonard without an O, but I have to put the middle initial in there. It's what's on my books because there is a Joseph Lenard out of South Carolina. I'm in Michigan. We both write Christian books, so I have to make that distinction.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, so I'm very curious to hear your story and how you got into being an author and being of service in the way that you are today.
Well, I was an IT guy for many years. I'd been writing my whole life. My dad, actually, Ted Leonard Jr. and the Polka Kings, they had a record deal. They had a band and they traveled all over the, east of the Mississippi playing music. So I'd always been in a creative family. So I wrote and recorded music early on, but I never got a record deal. So today, since I've got no instruments around, I use Suno AI to still record music. But I'd always written stories, poems, things of the online articles all through that time. So when I landed up on disability from my IT career, I decided, well, what are the things I could do from home, from my couch? And that's do a show and write books. So I do, and record music through Suno. So I do all those things to keep myself from going crazy.
Got it, man. Yeah, that makes sense. Sounds like you're kind of involved in a lot of things, right? And just being able to walk that path is very important, right? Because we all have a story, we all have a message, we all have things that we've gone through, and being aside of it, being of service is kind of like seems to be your own path at this point, right?
Yeah, and as you said, we all have a story. That's why one of my books is How to Write a Book and Get It Published, Hints,
Yeah,
Tips, and Techniques to help people get their story out.
100%, man. That's what it's all about, right? And we all have that within us. We just have to be able to activate it in a sense.
Yes, yes. A lot of people have thought about writing, but they don't know where to start. So I try to
Yeah.
help them get a start, a story outlining their book and scene and character development and what are realistic publishing options. And then what do you do after you publish, right? You've got to go on shows to promote your books. I currently have, I think I'm up to 15 internationally published books. It's now August of 2026. In May and June, I released two more books this year, one fiction, one nonfiction.
Yeah.
So,
It's incredible, man. So I'd like to start out with the topic of patriotism, right? Because I feel like you talk about this a lot in honor and integrity, right? That's very important topics in a sense. Like, what does that mean to you, and how do we sort of think about that in our own lives?
well, I did. It's kind of my bio: honor, integrity, patriotism. For some, those are just words. For me, they are what I embody in my everyday life. I didn't write that about me. Don McCauley of the Authors Show did. And I said, ooh, I like that. I'm going to use that as my bio.
Yeah.
But it's so nice that somebody recognizes that. But honor, integrity, for me, come out of my faith as a Christian to want to be honorable and indeed have integrity, deal in truth and reality, not like some this unicorn fart fantasy delusion of My truth. No, there's either the truth or your delusion. So, and the patriotism comes in because, yes, I have my own show, the Christitutionalist podcast. I trademarked that term myself. Our Judeo Christian foundations of our nation. So, those all go together with me and in me.
Makes sense. Yeah, living with honor and integrity, it's so important. Like, I mean, to me, that means a lot of things. Like living in alignment with who you are, living in alignment with the truth, as you said, just being able to live with virtue, right? Being able to get better every single day and being of service, right? And I think it's something to keep on top of mind every single day. Like, how do you do that personally in your own life?
I don't find it's much of an effort. So it's a hard question to answer. I mean, it's just, as Martin Luther King Jr. would say, the content of my character. It's just the very essence of my being. And part in why
Absolutely.
I try to instill, like the Supergirl movie that was just out. It gets ragged on. It didn't do very well at the box office. In fact, I did a review with Rick Walker out of Maverick News when the movie first came out, and I myself kind of trashed it. There's a lot to critique about it, but I saw it a second time, and I liked it better the second time because the underlying theme is you don't necessarily have to bend over to be nice all the time, but you should be good. You should work for good. You should help good over evil in life. So it's ultimately an overall good positive message. So I give it a B minus as far as the movie. Uh, and I try to embody that in my Life and Living series of books. tinyurl.com/Life and Living series will take you to that Life and Living series Amazon page. To not say it quite as the Supergirl movie did, but to indeed put forth it's a choice. God has given us all free will. You can choose good or evil. And I'm hoping more will choose good. And life isn't perfect. Life isn't like a movie where it's a thriller or a drama and there's always something happening. Like in my the Book of Kennedy Project Carpe Diem book, talk about mediocre days. Is life but a set of mediocre days with some bright spots mixed in? And the answer to that is yes. That's life. Life is kind of mundane a lot of the time. It's not like It's a Wonderful Life that we all see every Christmas comes on TV, right? Where Clarence comes down to show George what life would be like and how he's impacted others. Well, you're not likely to have a major event like saving someone from drowning or stopping someone from poisoning someone, stopping the pharmacist from poisoning a child, as George did. But little things matter, they add up. The smile you share with someone while you're out and about and they share back, that can help make someone else's day better. And you never know what those little acts of random kindness build up to. Also, a favorite movie of mine, The Butterfly Effect, right? Little acts build up to something bigger.
I love it. Yeah, it's about getting those small wins every single day. It's not about being perfect either, like you said. There's kind of seasons to things as well, right?
Yeah, everything's a cycle. Uh, we're human, we're flawed, we're frail, and like one of my songs I wrote, Inner Animal. We are animals, though we were given a higher intellect. Uh, I forgot my ADHD kicked in and I forgot where I was going with this.
No worries, man. It's like being able to kind of understand, like, yeah, there's a lot of things that happen, but kind of going with the flow in a sense, because realizing that things can be temporary, and there's going to be challenges and there's seasons, things, but it's like, hey, we just got to keep moving forward and live with that honor and integrity, right?
That was it. Seasons and cycles.
Yeah.
I call it, and I've got a song on that called Schizophrenic. I don't have voices in my head. I've got no friends. I'm schizophrenic. But the reality is I coined the term non-medical schizophrenia. We all have it. We have a happy side, a sad side. Uh, we have different moods. We have different feelings. Some days are better than others. We're all entitled to bad days. That's a schizophrenia in us that comprise our character. We're not all just one thing.
That makes sense. It's like
Right?
you
A
have like,
happy side, a sad side, a joking side, a serious side.
the key is to embrace it all, right?
Right, and to be you. To thine own self be true, as the saying goes, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Now, as a society, do you think that we struggle with those two character traits, honor and integrity? And if so, why? And how can we kind of move forward in a more progressive way, in a sense?
Well, it seems society has more and more trouble because there are more who are using their free will to choose to lie, cheat, and steal their way. And people see they may be successful for a season and think, well, they lie. Why shouldn't I lie? That's because to yourself you should be true, and your own honor and integrity should matter to you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's like when we go about our day-to-day lives, we just kind of get distracted by things, right? There's so many different things that kind of pull us away from what actually matters, right? And when we keep these virtues on top of mind, living with these things, it kind of influences our decisions on a day-to-day basis, right? Because we kind of like filter our decisions through our values. Do you see that as well?
Oh, absolutely. And again, that's why it's important to choose to always strive for good. Again, we're all entitled to having bad days, and that's why in the Christian faith there's grace. Jesus said turn the other cheek. He didn't say always be a sucker.
Right.
So recognize people can have a bad day, give them grace and give them a second chance. But if someone constantly chooses evil or constantly chooses hate or constantly chooses, as in the book Kennedy, Project Carpe Diem, I call them the mass holes. The masses of asses, right? They're just always, they're miserable and they want everyone else to be miserable.
Right.
Well, remember the saying, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You don't want to be around those people a lot. You're not required to tolerate them forever. You should exorcise yourself of those people in your life so that you can stay upbeat, positive, and a force for good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we all have a choice, as you mentioned. It's like, we have a decision to make whether we're going to live a life of freedom or a life of fear, in a sense, right? And we have to be able to choose that on a day-to-day basis. And you mentioned some interesting points right there. It's like, how do we kind of value ourselves enough, in a sense, to actually be around high level energy, right? Because if we're kind of distracted, as you mentioned, just being pulled down, like I can kind of get ourselves distracted, in a sense. So how do we move out of that if we're in that space?
Well, we just have to be conscious of it and recognize karma. In my Life and Living series of books, karma is a recurring theme. So you don't have to be religious per se to understand karma. You put good out into the world, you're likely to get more good back. You surround yourself with negative Nellies, you're bound to get more negative back. It's just, you know, the way of the world. And in my complicated book, I discuss the lead character is got out of bed, didn't get a good night's sleep, knows he's going to be grumpy. This is going to be a bad day for him. So he avoids going to an eatery because Doug was going to be there. And Doug is one of those massholes. He, always grumpy, always negative, and he knew himself that day he might blow up right at Doug, and he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to be mean. So he just avoided Doug that day. It's recognizing, being able to look at yourself in your bathroom mirror and know what's going on with you and adjusting as best you can.
Yeah. To me, it sounds like having that self-awareness and also the willingness to protect your energy, right? Because, of course, we're going to come up against it, but it's like if we want to be the highest level of service with our own capacity, we have to kind of foster our own energy, right?
Yes. Aura, right? That kind of goes along with karma. What you exude will be, in general, what comes your way back. The aura you exude, a positivity, a goodness, and fostering that through your days. Carpe diem, as they say. Like I said, right, the book of Kennedy, Project Carpe Diem.
Yeah.
Get out there and seize the day. The day isn't here to cater to your whims. You have to help shape how your day's going to go. And they're not all going to be good, positive days. Shit happens, as they say. It's how we react to it. Do we get angry, which, hubris is a sin. Being full of yourself is a sin, but anger is not. It's how we channel that anger as to whether it can be good or bad. If we channel that anger to formulate a way to turn what has angered us into something positive, as opposed to lashing out in anger. Sin can occur out of anger if we don't control ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. Something I like to say is don't expect life to give itself to you. Instead, give yourself to life, right? Because in that way, we have the capacity to actually take responsibility for our own state of being, right? And from there, from a place of empowerment, that's where we can really choose to actually, kind of be uplifting, right? Instead of just being the victim of our own reality, right?
Yeah, well, it's easy to, especially today, to whine and cry about being a victim of society. Oh, woe is me, or anti-Semitism seems to be massively, whether you're blaming Jewish people or blaming black people or black people blaming white people, there's a whole lot of victimhood mentality out there today. Well, I call it the man in the mirror moment, like, Michael Jackson, not like the movie Network. Remember that scene where he said, I want you to go to the window and scream, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Well, venting into the vapor doesn't do much good. Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what are you doing? What might you be doing wrong? What might you be able to do better? Are you bringing negative your own way? Right? It starts with us. We have to be honest, not just with others, but ourselves. Is there something wrong in the way I tend to do things, that I need to figure out a better way of doing it so things will be better, not only just for myself, but others.
Sounds like taking 100% responsibility, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that pairs back with honor and integrity. Personal responsibility, like our Judeo Christian foundations. We are given individual rights, and personal responsibility goes along with that. We've lost that over the 250 years of America, and we need to get that back.
Yeah. Something I say is like it's not necessarily everything is your fault per se, because let's take health for example, right? The deck is stacked against you in very many ways. Like it's so difficult to be healthy because so many different things are against you, right? And a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. But then it is your responsibility though, because it's your life. 100% responsibility. Okay, this I may not have asked for this, but now this happened. I get to decide what happens next because now the power's in your hands. Now you have agency to take control over the outcome in a sense.
Yes, like me, I have a myriad of health conditions and I'm on disability, which again is why I do my show and write my books from my couch. Uh, Immune dysfunction is one of my issues, so I avoid going out a lot of the time because I'm susceptible to catching whatever might be out there. I certainly didn't ask for it, and I sure don't want it, but it's just reality. What is it that I can do with this plane of reality I've been handed? I can whine and moan about it, or I could try to find a positive. And that positive is, well, now I've got time from my couch to do my own show, the Constitutionalist podcast, and write these books to try to encourage others to be positive and upbeat and understand things aren't always going to go your way. When, as the saying goes, life gives you lemon, make lemonade. Or like
Right.
instead of Mrs. Doubtfire, that anger, have a drive-by fruiting. If you recall that movie where she's throwing lemons at the Pierce
Right.
Bronson character.
Yeah. It's like turning your mess into your message, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Putting as positive a spin. Now, I want to be careful, and I say that advisedly because earlier we were talking about honor, integrity, and truth and reality. So entering the word spin there gets closer to the, oh, it's my truth. Again, no, there's either truth and reality. It's glass half empty, glass half full. It's trying to find a silver lining in things. That doesn't mean lying or uh, uh, not dealing in reality. It's latching on to the best part of the reality we can so that we move forward in a positive way. We don't get hung up and stuck in that negativity.
That's right. It's like, okay, these things are going to happen, right? But living in the flow of life, right? So we just kind of like move to the next thing in a sense. Like try not to get stuck. That's why it's important to uplift your energy, engage in positive habits, and get outside of
Yeah,
ourselves in a sense, and just look
yeah,
to be of service. All these things they kind of come together, right? It all works together.
yeah. It's like my latest book, Roller Coasters, The Life Kind, and I've only got a paper copy of the title because it's an ebook exclusive. There's no actual print copy. Uh, Rick loses someone close to him, and that's just the reality of life. Death is a part of reality that we all have to cope and deal with. But how do you deal with it when it presents itself? Do you get stuck in the dwelling on the negative aspect of that. And what do you do to keep the person you've lost's legacy alive? Because as I said on another show the other day, someone is only really lost if we allow them to be forgotten. So Roller Coasters, the Life Kind, talks about all the things we're talking about here, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what are we going to choose to be our days? Gloomy or sunny?
Yeah, it's like, we all have like that power within us, and just being able to kind of traverse these experiences in a way that is growth oriented, right? Because like when we start to be a victim of a reality, we start to kind of shrink our possibilities, and when we start to lose that sense of possibility, what happens is now we start to be more cynical, more negative, right? Because now we don't necessarily think things get better. Let's keeping that hope alive is really important, kind of like you said.
Yeah, hope it's one of my songs on Suno, tinyurl.com/JLD on Suno.
Right.
Hope. Hope is great. Hope is wonderful, but hope in and of itself isn't a strategy. As well as I've got a song, Prayer Alone Enough. No, prayer alone isn't enough. You must put things into action to try to make things better. My ADHD took me down that line of thought, and I forgot something else I was going to say. Oh, the power of control over ourselves. And I go into this in one of the books. We don't get to choose how people act towards us, but we do get to choose how we react back. And that is about us, not them.
Yeah, it's really important, right? Because what we do have control over, as you mentioned, is our response. Like taking control over our actions and the things that we actually can control, we have to make sure that we actually do that, right? Because once we start to do that, now we have the power to actually have influence over the external world in a sense and the outcome, as opposed to the opposite. So,
yeah, and it's like I was pointing out in the complicated book with Doug. We're all entitled to bad days. You can have a bad day and you might react badly on a day. But as long as you feel bad about it and you learn from that, oh, I don't want to react that way again, given a similar circumstances, use it to get better. And that's why we ourselves need to be given grace too. The next time we see them, if we've reacted badly to them, we should recognize it and apologize for it and say, I will try to be better.
right. So the power of self-assessment, right? Like, don't make excuses, make adjustments.
One of my Constitutionalist podcast shows is a listener feedback show with Trudy Bierman. Self-reflection, that man in the mirror moment that I was talking about. The ability to look at yourself and be honest with yourself, to self-assess, self-reflect, and know where you stand. And, well, yeah, just be self-aware and know, all right, today I got out of bed on the wrong side. I need to be more conscious of my choices so I don't react badly.
Right. Because when we get caught up in the distractions and all the other things, that's when we start to lose our sense of progress, our sense of being, and we start to have that deep awareness. And now we can, hey, I can actually choose how I respond to this, and I can get better over time. I think that's the exciting part of it too, because now we actually have the pen in our hands, and we get to write our story every single day.
Yeah, and one of my health issues is ADHD, OCD. People think, well, there's either one or the other, but no, you can be bipolar. You can be part both, which I am. It's like autism. It's a spectrum. They're like opposite ends, but they, like a Venn diagram, parts can overlap. I've already given an example of my ADHD taking me off down a rabbit hole that I lose my train of thought. Normally I generally suffer the OCD, which is obsessing about something and going on and on too long about something because my brain won't let it go.
That makes sense. Just being able to know where we are in a sense in life, so we can actually know where we're going, right? Because having awareness of our state of being can actually kind of help us traverse that. Because a lot of us, I feel like we're lacking self awareness, and we're not necessarily on the path that we desire.
A lot
And
of
even
people
that in
are,
itself is a
yes.
process too.
Yeah, a lot of people cannot be self-aware. They've got blinders to their own shortcomings. Let's say. Uh, See, now there, my ADHD brain did it to me again. I was going to say something, but I went off on that tangent and I forgot now.
Yeah, just being able to be aware of where we are, so we can get where we want to be. In a sense, is what I was saying.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. The past, you got to know your past. History isn't taught in schools, neither is civics or economics, unfortunately. So we've got a lot of dumb people walking around. But yeah, you've got to know where you've been, where you are, to understand and be able to formulate where you're going to go into your future. So yes, thank you. You reminded me where I wanted to go with that.
Exactly, man. Now you also talk about the importance of having a sense of humor, right? I feel like it's very important as well because not only is it very good for mental health and just energy, it's like helps us get through challenges and kind of be more graceful in that process. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, in my Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You book, I'm going to grab something here. I wrote it down so I don't have to remember it because getting older now and my memory isn't what it used to be. A book about terrorism. Yes, it's about terrorism, but it's not a book about death, but life and living. Life over death, hope over fear, faith over despair, love over hate, good over evil, in politically speaking, individualism over collectivism, as well as Martin Luther King Jr.'s content of character embodied that in that individualism over collectivism, freedom over tyranny, family and friends. So it even in my Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You book, I have a comic relief chapter to make that very point. No matter how serious things get, we need to keep a sense of humor. And even on Suno, where I have my music these days, tinyurl.com/JLD on Suno, I have a parody slash fun slash jokes slash silly playlist. You gotta keep one of my songs. Oh, pardon me, I don't know where that came from, is Jamaican Me Crazy. Now, of course, some people out there, oh, that's cultural appropriation. How dare he? You know, because the woman in the song sounds Jamaican. She's from the island. Well, I've been there. I've got friends there. I'm not appropriating a damn thing. I'm paying them homage to their wonderful culture and lifestyle. But Jamaican Me Crazy with these lame puns about that. One of the lines in there, even a bad pun is a good one, man. Right? You've got to keep a sense of humor, or as Cypress Hill, if you remember that group, used to say, we'll go insane in the membrane.
Yeah, I mean, humor is so key, right? Because it can really help us stay in the flow, kind of like we were talking about before. And also just be like lighthearted, right? Not everything has to be so serious. Like, there's usually a lot of opportunities we can have, like even if we're kind of like caught up in something or maybe a failure or a mistake, we can just kind of like just go with it, right? Because what you focus on tends to expand in a sense, and if we're just kind of focused on the negative, it's going to expand in our own mind and our own lives. But we can actually learn the lessons from it and move forward. It's like part of the process. We start to embrace these things and realize that, hey, just kind of like more so how I respond to these things. And because now you're playing in a sense because the power's in your hands. You're not actually being controlled, right?
Yeah, back to the we are multiple personalities in one that makes the content of our character. I used to co host the Savaged Unfiltered show, and there I was known as two different end of the spectrum things. Sometimes I'd be Raging Joe, and other times I would be Jokester Joe. So I want to share a couple of jokes, couple Joe originals with you. Do you know anyone that has any Labrador Retriever puppies for sale? I'd like to buy one to name Meth so I can have a meth lab. Bum. And here's another Joe original, and it's even in Terror Strikes. Shakespeare joke. To be or not to be is truly the question. Because if it's to be, I got bingo.
All right, yeah, makes sense.
Again, lame, cringe kind of humor, but it can still make somebody's day better if they're in a bad mood. Get them out of themselves and just thinking silly.
Yeah, I like that. It makes sense because when we get caught up in our own head too much, and
Yes.
we get caught up in the moment, and sometimes it's good to like think outside of it and to step away from it and realize that hey, it's like it's usually not as bad as we think. It could be depending on our state of mind, right? We actually move beyond that and realize that hey, fear, you know, is it can be used as a tool in a sense. We can understand it and move through it, but don't get stuck, right? And just kind of move through that. And get through it.
Right. In Roller Coasters, the Life Kind, I talk about that, not getting stuck. Like in that book, Rick is dealing with the shock, denial, anger, acceptance phases of grief, not getting stuck in one phase for too long a period of time. And as you said, things may not always be as bad as they seem. It's an ongoing, recurring theme in my Life and Living series of books. Again, tinyurl.com/life and living series. Things could always be better, but they could often be worse.
Yeah, just keeping that perspective is so important, especially in those challenging moments. It's hard to do, but it's worth it for sure.
Yep. And remember, tomorrow's another day. The old saying, today's not your day and tomorrow's not looking too good for you either. But hey, what about next week, next month, next year? Yeah, you might be in a rut now, but I go into in one of my books Annie the play, right? The sun'll come out tomorrow. It's that half empty, half full, looking for the silver lining, understanding every day isn't going to go your way, but and a lot of days are going to be mediocre, like in the Book of Kennedy, Project Carpe Diem, and there's a song, Kennedy stared at the ceiling, tinyurl.com/JOD on Suno. Mediocre days. Yeah, a lot of them are going to be mediocre. Uh, but is that what you want to base your life on? Those? Or do you want to celebrate the better days and strive for more better days rather than getting caught up in the everyday blahs and the mundane?
That's what it's all about. I mean, you talk about writing books too, right? That's kind of another topic, but like you seem to be a good writer and you write a lot. So, do you have any like, I guess reasons why people should write one, and maybe how to go about that in your own
Yep.
experience?
The how to go about that's in the how to write a book and get it published, hints, tips, and techniques. It's not a how to put your book on Amazon. You can read the Amazon help files for that. But you know, not everyone knows who Anthony is. So you don't want the memoir of Anthony. Most people would look at that and say, who's Anthony? Why should I care? But a life and times fictionalized version of your life can share some good days, bad days, and a point, a moral to the story that can be uplifting to others. And in How to Write a Book and Get It Published, Hints, Tips, and Techniques, I try to lead people through where to start in writing a book, either fiction or nonfiction. A part autobiographical, again, better to write it as fiction because it will relate to more people. But sharing stories help others to grow. And everyone has a story in them. And you might think as an author, I don't want the competition. Well, that's actually not true. I want people, through How to Write a Book and Get It Published, Hints, Tips, Techniques, I'm helping a lot of other people get their books, their story out. I'm helping one person now, I won't give their name, but writing a book about an uncle of theirs who became a quadriplegic. Well, that can help people with the overcoming, the obstacles in life. Your life isn't as bad as them, yet they found the good in each day and a way to bring good into the world despite their bad condition. So I'm trying to help her bring his story out. Hopefully coming soon on Amazon.
I like it. Just being able to write our own story and just being able to be of service and get the message out there, man. It's a really important thing to do. Now, we kind of mentioned this a little bit before. I'm just kind of curious your perspective on karma. Well, what is that? What does that even mean exactly? And perhaps like how do we start to think about that? Is it about kind of like putting good out in the world? Or like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. And that's an ongoing, recurring theme in my Life and Living series. You don't have to think of it as most people think of it as a Buddhism type tenet. But it's just common sense, really. The show me your friends, I'll show you your future adage holds true because you surround yourself with good, you're likely to bask in good. You surround yourself in the muck, you're bound to turn in part of the muck yourself. It's just common sense. What you put around you helps shape who you are, and you get to help shape others. That's karma.
Makes sense. It's kind of like a simple thing, right? It's like the more good you put out in the world, and it like the more you're gonna get back, right? I feel like, and just like from a wealth perspective, like the more people you help, the more that you'll be kind of compensated, right? And I
Yeah.
think it's good to come from a place of service, like really wanting to see people win, like wanting the world to win, coming from an altruistic mindset of like, hey, like the rising tide raises all ships, right? That's a real thing, and
Well,
not just
a
like,
rising tide lifts most boats. I've got an article on that at
oh, yeah,
beforeitsnews.com because you can't help people who sabotage their own boat. You're not going to rise their boat because they're drilling holes in it. If they're dead set on sinking their own boat, well, too bad for you. But indeed, everything for the greater good, and a rising tide does lift most boats. And
yeah,
I mentioned my mirror moment based on Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror song, as well as Rick Springfield has a song called Prayer. I send a prayer to heaven for the chance to be a better man than the man I see, looking back at me in my mirror. Well, I mentioned that because Rick Springfield also has another song on his Karma album that goes, every bit of love I give to another, you know what I believe? It comes back to me. That's that karma concept. You put out positive energy, you're going to tend to get positive energy back.
yeah. It just makes sense, right? It's like being able to keep those things on top of mind. Again, not necessarily gonna be perfect in that, but doing everything that we can and making adjustments as we go, right? So we can kind of calibrate our service. That's kind of I look at that as well too. So
Yeah, it goes back to honor and integrity, our choice. What do we use our God given free will? Do we want to be positive? Do we want to help sow good? If you're not sowing good, then you're complicit in the rotten fruit we're all trying to choke down. We've allowed evil to sow. To get all philosophical and religious on you there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, just being able to understand that, like understanding that, even if we do a lot of good things in the world, and if we're not coming from like a place of like, just really wanting to help, maybe it's even a selfish perspective. Like you're still gonna get something, but it's like I feel like it's very important to actually come from a place of authenticity, right? Because now you're living with the truth. Like you are it. You're in alignment, and that's gonna be like the most fulfilling existence, I believe.
Yeah. Even, it's, again, selfishness is part of our inner animal at times, but we don't want to be that way all the time. So doing something but expecting a return isn't the best place to be, but it's understandable at times. And indeed, if you put out good in hopes of getting good back, there's nothing wrong with that. But as long as that isn't your intention always, uh, it, I lost my train of thought again. I was at the train station when the ship came in.
Yeah. Just saying, like the place where you come from, it really matters. Like living in alignment, and, if you're coming from, a place of authenticity, and that's gonna be like the most fulfilling thing. That's what.
Yes,
Yeah.
you should care about your own health, mental health, and taking care of yourself and
Yeah.
worrying about yourself. But now I remember where I was going to go with the Jesus revolution of the 70s came out of the hippie movement of the 60s. All that, if it feels good, do it, and it's all about me and what do I get, and I want it yesterday. Eventually, most of them, if you weren't Bernadine Dorn or Bill Ayers, became anti Western terrorists. You woke up and realized there's got to be more to this life than just me. And that's important to remember. There are other people, and you should care about them. And caring about other people is in tune with caring for yourself, because, again, that for the greater good. More have it good when the greater amount of people have it good. That doesn't mean communistic equity. That's not lifting up boats, that's dragging them down to the lowest common denominator. So helping others, yes, helps yourself. Making the better planet a better place helps yourself as well.
Absolutely right. It has to be more, right? And we get to decide. We get to create that experience, and that's what's exciting. All right,
Dry,
Joseph.
dry throat.
Been awesome. I really appreciate you today for coming on the show. We talked about a lot of cool things, a lot of things that are important to think about, a lot of important things to kind of implement in our lives, like character, honor, integrity, like all these things like work together, and being able to kind of walk our own path, be able to overcome ourselves to be of maximum service was all about. So thank you so much, man.
I appreciate you having me, and people can find me on Linktree if they're familiar with that, linktr.ee/J Leonard Detroit. Again, it's not French, it's not Lenard, it's Leonard without an O, J for Joseph, Leonard without the O, Detroit, because I'm in the Detroit area, or my author site, josephmleonard.us, or my Terror Strikes book site, terrorstrikes.info, are the main places you can find me. And of course, Joseph M. Leonard. Don't look up that Joseph Lenard guy on Amazon. Look me up. Joseph M. Leonard on
Yeah.
Amazon. All my books are there.
All right. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.